Radhe Radhe. In this series of lectures by these learned preachers, today we have Rameshwari Devi Ji, and let me give her a brief intro of her. Sushri Rameshwari Devi Ji was born in Punjab, India, and was raised in Canada. She has a bachelor's degree in arts and science. Didi Ji had unwavering love for Shri Krishna right from early childhood and came in contact with Jagadguru Shri Kripalu Ji Maharaj in the year 1984. She also had the opportunity to have his association and to do personal service to him for many years. After studying all the Hindu scriptures and learning Indian music under the direct guidance of Jagadguru Shri Kripalu Ji Maharaj, she was initiated into sannyas in the year 2011. Since then, she has been enlightening souls in Canada and US with the eternal Vedic philosophy of devotion to Radha Krishna. I request all of you to please listen to her discourse very attentively, and please switch off your cell phones. As a token of our respect, I request now Satya Didi to please offer a garland to Didi.
प्रथमं सद्गुरुं वन्दे श्रीकृष्णं तदनन्तरम् गुरुः पापात्मना त्राता श्रीकृष्णस्त्वमलात्मना चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहा दावाग्नि निर्वापणम् श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नमः कमलनाभाय नमः कमलमालये नमः कमलेक्षणम् यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तद्ग्वं ह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये. Spiritually inquisitive, most fortunate, the rarest of blessed divine souls. Let us chant His glorious name while meditating on the divine form of Shri Radha and Krishna. राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 राधे ओ राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 राधे मोही ऐसी विरह वेदना दे रैन दिन गाऊं गोविंद राधे मोही ऐसी विरह वेदना दे रैन दिन गाऊं गोविंद राधे मोही ऐसी विरह वेदना दे रैन दिन गाऊं गोविंद राधे मोही ऐसी विरह वेदना दे रैन दिन गाऊं गोविंद राधे ओ राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधे राधे मोहि दासी की दासी बना दे मोहि दासी की दासी बना दे कोई सेवा मुझे भी दिला दे मोहि दासी की दासी बना दे कोई सेवा मुझे भी दिला दे मोहि दासी की दासी बना दे कोई सेवा मुझे भी दिला दे मोहि दासी की दासी बना दे कोई सेवा मुझे भी दिला दे ओ राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 राधे अपनी सेवा जो ना दे तो ना दे अपनी सेवा जो ना दे तो ना दे अपने जन की ही सेवा दिला दे अपनी सेवा जो ना दे तो ना दे अपनी जन की भी सेवा दिला दे अपनी सेवा जो ना दे तो ना दे अपने जन की ही सेवा दिला दे अपनी सेवा जो ना दे तो ना दे अपने जन की भी सेवा दिला दे ओ राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 राधे ओ राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 रति समर्था की गोपी बना दे रति समर्था की गोपी बना दे रास में नाम मेरा लिखा दे समर्था की गोपी बना दे रास में नाम मेरा लिखा दे रति समर्था की गोपी बना दे रास में नाम मेरा लिखा दे समर्था की गोपी बना दे रास में नाम मेरा लिखा दे ओ राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे 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 गोविंद गोविंद राधा गोविंद भगवान की
जय।
श्रीमद् सतगुरु सरकार की
जय।
The bhajan, the devotional song that I have chosen to elaborate on today is from the Premras Madhira, composed by none other than our beloved Shri Maharaj Ji. And it is Are Man As Trishna Balwan. Meaning, the mind is being addressed. O mind, desire is such a powerful thing, Trishna, or Kamana, desire, synonymous words. It is such a powerful thing. Bade bade bhupati bhaye bhutal uday ast lom bhan. So powerful is this Kamana, this Trishna, that there have been great emperors, great kings who have ruled the entire earth, and yet their condition was no better than that of a beggar. Uday ast lom bhan. They were such kings, they had such great powers that here in this line, Shri Maharaj Ji says that their empires, the sun never set in their empires. They were so powerful. As you know, man has the freedom, has been given the freedom and the power to attain whatever he desires. So just as man can bring the most wildest and the most ferocious animal, creature under his control by means of material skills, in the same way, he's capable of enslaving, controlling, and defeating even heavenly gods. So imagine they had such powers that the god, the sun god, would abide by their wishes. We read in the Ramayana that celestial gods such as Varun, the god of water, Kuber, the god of wealth, and even Yamaraj, the god of death, were all servants of Ravan. He was so powerful. तिनहुन की सोई दशा रही जो एक भिखारी ही जान. And yet even they, even their condition was no better than that of a beggar. Imagine. यह तृष्णा नहीं छोड़ती इंद्र हूँ जेहि सुरपति सब मान. Even Indra, who is considered to be the king of the celestial abode of the heavenly gods, is unable to let go of this desire. So strong, so powerful is this desire. In other words, their thirst to attain something greater, something more, does not get quenched. This desire never gets fulfilled. Such is this desire. So, जबलों नहीं सुमिरही मन निशिदिन सुंदर श्याम सुजान, तबलों सुख कृपालु नहीं पई हों वेद पुराण प्रमाण. So Shri Maharaj Ji says in the last line that unless and until you absorb your mind, you immerse your mind day and night in the beauty of Shyam Sundar while meditating on his divine form, you will not be able to find even a trace of that true happiness, divine bliss, that which is unlimited and everlasting, and that which our mind is yearning for since time immemorial. And the Vedas and the Purans, Ved, Puran, Praman, and the Vedas and the Darshan Shastra and Puranas are declaring this in a loud voice, in a trumpet voice. This is the gist of this bhajan. So let us sing a few lines and then I will elaborate on it. As Trishna Balwan Are Man. As Trishna Balwan Are Man. Are As Trishna Balwan Are Man. As Trishna Balwan Are बड़े बड़े भूपति भये भूतल बड़े बड़े भूपति भये भूतल बड़े भूपति भये भूतल उदय अस्त लोभान हरि मान उदय अस्त लोभान हरि मान उदय अस्त लोभान अरे मन उदय अस्त लोभान अरे मन अस तृष्णा बलवान अरे मान अस तृष्णा बलवान अरे मान अस तृष्णा बलवान हरे मान अस तृष्णा बलवान हरे मान अस तृष्णा Balwan Hare Man As Trishna Balwan Hare Man. As you may recall, in the last discourse, it was revealed that there are two worlds in existence: the inner world of the mind and the outer world that we live in. And it is the inner world of the mind that is comprised of our desires. In fact, this desire is the main substance of the inner world, the world of our mind. And it is, therefore, the inner world of our mind which poses a real problem for us. Why? It is because of the inner world that we have been attached to the outer world since time immemorial. So, let us try to understand the inner world a little better. The inner world of our mind is afflicted by many diseases, but the most damaging disease is that of desire, kamana. The scriptures tell us, Yada sarve parmuchyante kamaesya hridishritaah athamartyo mrito bhavatyatra brahma samashnute. Kathopanishad 2:3-14. The scriptures tell us that the moment an individual is free of all desires, the moment his desires are destroyed, he becomes a perfect being. Such an individual no longer needs to gain any further knowledge or practice any further devotion. This is why when young Prahlad was granted a boon by Lord Nrsimha, he asked for something very unique. He prayed in the following way. It is written in the Bhagavad. Yadi rasish me kaman varans tvam varadarshabha kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vinevaram. 7th canto, 10th chapter, 7th verse. He said, my Lord, my only wish is to become desireless. My only wish, my only desire is to be desireless. Grace me so that the very seed of desire within me may be destroyed forever. So why is desire considered dangerous? Again, the scriptures reveal to us. Indriyani manah prana atma dharmo dhritirmati Hrihi Shri stejas smritih satyam yasya nashyanti janmana. 7:10-8 Bhagavad. Several damages are done due to the appearance of desire. The scriptures, the Bhagavad tells us, energy of the sense organs, energy of the mind, energy of the pran, vital breath, and energy of the soul. These four main pillars which constitute our well-being are shaken the moment a desire is born. Moreover, virtues such as righteousness, patience, sahanshilta, modesty, self-esteem, and true knowledge, tattva gyan, are all destroyed because of desire. And just and there are many desires. There are 5 desires in total. And these are related to our 5 sense organs. These are the desires to see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. So just how powerful are these desires? There's a beautiful verse in the scriptures. Kuranga matanga patanga bhringa meena hataha panchabhireva pancha ekah pramadi sakatham na hanyate yah sevate panchabhireva pancha. Sukti. In other words, the desire to hear music leads a deer to its death. The honeybee falls prey to the desire for sweet fragrance. The fish dies because of its desire for taste. It bites the bait. A moth falls victim to the flame, and an elephant gets trapped, gets caught in the trap due to its desire to roll around in the cool mud. In other words, these creatures meet their end while attempting to satisfy only one desire. The scriptures say, then what to say of human beings who are tormented by all 5 desires? And not only that, all these 5 desires demand on being fulfilled simultaneously, all at the same time. And yet, some people claim that anger is much more dangerous than desire. Anger can drive an individual to commit the most horrible crime. While others claim that greed is even a more dangerous disease than desire. Then why have the scriptures and saints named desire to be the most damaging disease of the mind, that is the inner world? We also read in the Ramayana, Deh dhare kar yah fal bhai, bhajiya Ram sab kaam bahai. The Ramayana says, oh dear friend, having attained the precious human birth, reap the fruit of worshipping God alone while renouncing all desires. Through desires, no one can be happy. So the learned people have said. And what do the scriptures say about anger and greed? They say that anger and greed are born of desire. Desire is the mother of anger as well as greed. For example, when a desire enters the mind, one of the 2 things will happen. Either that desire will be fulfilled, or it will remain unfulfilled. If fulfilled, it will give birth to greed, which is ever increasing. That is the definition of greed. And insatiable, it cannot be satisfied. And if that desire remains unfulfilled, that desire will lead to anger and frustration. So it is obvious, if we can eliminate desire, we would no longer face any danger from anger or greed. So the next step is to find out the root cause of desire. If we wish to get rid of anger and greed, we will first have to get rid of desire, according to the scriptures. And if we want to get rid of desire, we will have to reach at the root of desire, the root cause of desire. For example, if someone wants to destroy a tree, the only effective method is to strike at the root of that tree. Once the root is destroyed, there's no question of further growth of leaves, branches, flowers, or fruits. So therefore, we must find out the root cause of desire, the source of desire. So please listen carefully. The cause of all our 5 desires, the Gita tells us, can be summed up in one word alone, and that word is attachment, asakti. Or Krishna says in the Gita, Sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodho bhijayate. 262. He says people, the Gita states, that we people are attached to different things, different objects. Some people are addicted to tea, some to coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, and so on. And because of this attachment, there's a desire for these things from time to time. The reason is that we have a natural tendency to desire the object of our attachment. How many times have you heard someone else say or yourself say, I cannot wake up in the morning without that first cup of tea. And you can substitute tea for coffee or cigarettes or etc. So why does one need that cup of tea or coffee? It is because an attachment has been formed to them. And this attachment leads to desire. For example, let us say that there are some people in a room. One of them gets up and says, who ate the donuts that I had left on the table? One man shouts indignantly, it certainly was not me. Do you think I've never eaten a donut in my life? What makes you think I would take any of yours? But one thing that would implicate that this man may have eaten the donuts is the fact that he has eaten so many donuts in his life. You see, a person who has never eaten a donut cannot be attached to them. But one who has eaten many will certainly desire to eat more. It is only someone who has drunk a lot of tea or coffee who becomes a tea addict. Only a habitual user of alcohol or drugs runs the danger of becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict. Another thing to remember is that we do not always desire only that which is fragrant and beautiful. Our likes and dislikes, our tastes and distastes depend on our attachments. For example, alcohol smells great to a drinker, but not to a teetotaler, one who abstains from drinking. Another example, a mother often puts her mouth on her child's mouth, but an onlooker may be disgusted. Why? Because if he were to go near the child, he would say that the child smells bad, but not to the mother. Her attachment to the child changes foul smell to fragrance. Let us take another example. A child gets separated from his mother in a crowd. The mother is frantic. She reports to the nearest police station. At the station, she sees a number of children who have also been separated from their parents. She is asked to identify her child, but she just shakes her head because her child is not there. And yet, from the description that she gives of her child, it is obvious that there are so many better-looking children than her child. And yet, she does not want any of the other children. She only wants her own child back. So we cannot say that beauty is a source of desire. If it had been, then the woman would have preferred to take one of the other children home with her. But this is not so. You see, the fact is that a beggar woman derives as much pleasure in embracing her sickly, diseased child as a queen does in embracing her beautiful and charming son, the prince. Why? The reason is attachment. So number 1 is attachment, number 2 is desire, number 3 is anger, if that desire remains unfulfilled, and number 4 is greed upon the fulfillment of that desire. So now the next question is, what is the reason behind attachment? Why are we attached to certain things? Again, the Gita answers, Dhyayato vishayan punsah sangasteshu pajayate. The second line of the same verse, 262. In other words, when a person continuously meditates upon an object or an individual to be a source of happiness, he becomes attached to that object or individual. But how did we get attached to them in the first place? No one is born an alcoholic. In fact, an alcoholic will probably tell you that he did not enjoy his first drink at all. He may have started drinking due to peer pressure or due to some other reason, and that too only once a week. Then he slowly progressed to twice a week, then 3 times a week, then 4 times a week, until he became an alcoholic. So now the question is this: why do we presume anything or anyone to be a source of happiness? Why are we so busy searching for happiness in the first place? And the answer is a very simple one, and you've heard the answer many times. I'm sure you can even give some quotations from the Gita or the Ramayana. Being a part and parcel of our blissful source, of our blissful origin or entirety, that is God, it is our inherent nature to look for happiness in everything and everyone. Ishwara ansha jiva vinashi chetana mal sahaj sukh rashi प्राण प्राण के जीव के जीव सुख के सुख राम. Their mind tells us that all living beings are the eternal parts and parcels of God. God is the life force of all living beings. So it is our inherent nature to look for happiness in everything. We cannot stop searching for this happiness unless and until we succeed in attaining it. And therefore we have been searching for happiness since beginningless time, but have not tasted even a drop of that real happiness. But nevertheless, we go on searching, we go on expecting happiness in the world. And when we look for happiness in something, it is natural that we will form an attachment to it. And this attachment inevitably, undoubtedly, leads to desire. And where there's desire, anger and greed cannot be too far behind, because anger and greed are the children of desire. Desire is the mother of all vices. So what is the solution? The Bhagavad tells us that if we were to direct all our worldly attachments towards the lotus feet of Shri Krishna or his perfect devotee, a genuine saint, we would immediately attain supreme happiness. Chipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat chantim negacchati. Gita 9:31 says, as soon as we surrender to him, we immediately attain our goal of supreme happiness. So the scriptures explain that when an individual continuously meditates upon worldly objects, he becomes engrossed in them, he becomes attached to them. Whereas one who constantly meditates upon God ultimately attains his eternal goal of supreme happiness. There's a beautiful verse in the scriptures. Ya chinta bhuvi putra pautra bharana vyapar sambhashane Ya chinta dhan dhanya bhoga yashasam labhe sada jayate sa chinta yadi nanda nandana padadvandvar vindekshanam ka chinta yamaraj bhima sadana dvara prayane vibho. Sukti. Meaning, if an individual were to direct all his attachments, anxieties, and worries for the world and worldly relationships to the lotus feet of Nanda Nandana, in other words, Shri Krishna, all his problems would be solved immediately. And yet, our problem is that we form attachments in the world thinking the world to be a source of happiness. The moment we stop expecting happiness from the world, we break free from the cycle of attachment, desire, anger, greed, pride, etc., etc. So, first of all, we need to understand that there's no happiness in this world. Now you may say, yes, you are right. This world is full of misery, sorrow, and suffering. But even this is not true. The truth is, tasmad dukhatmakam nasti naiv kinchit sukhatmakam. Vishnu Rahasya, Vishnu Puran. The scriptures tell us that there's neither happiness nor sorrow in the world. But first, let us understand that there's no happiness in the world. And using the same logic, it will automatically be proven that there's no unhappiness in the world either. So let us first reflect. Let us just reflect on the fact that there's no happiness in the world. No worldly object or individual possesses real happiness. Let us take the example of our favorite food, say chocolate. I see some smiles. Is there happiness in chocolate? Yes. Some will say, yes, of course there is. Some will say, no, there is not. If there were happiness in chocolate, then everyone would have experienced this happiness. But this is not so. For every person who loves chocolate, there's another who does not care for it. Some people think that onion and garlic enhance the flavor of food, while others think they spoil the taste. Even the sight or smell of meat can make a strict vegetarian lose appetite, including myself. We can take countless such worldly examples. So are they a source of happiness? No. The answer is no. Had they been a source of happiness, then this happiness would have been experienced by everyone alike and at all times. Let us take another example of something which gives an equal amount of happiness to everyone and at all times, and that is water. You will agree that water is a source of happiness for everyone at all times, or is it? Suppose you are extremely thirsty and someone offers you a glass of cold water. You take the first sip and experience tremendous happiness. But hold on, by the time you take the second sip, that happiness you experienced initially has already gone down one notch. By the time you take the third sip, it has gone down another notch. By the time you take the fourth sip, it has gone down another notch. So in this way, this initial happiness keeps on decreasing until it disappears completely. After a certain time, the same water becomes a source of misery to you. You will say that I cannot have any more. If I take another sip, I will throw up. Let us go back to the example of the chocolate for a moment. You take one bite of the chocolate and experience, let us say, $1 worth of happiness. The second bite gives you 75 cents worth of happiness. The third bite gives you 50 cents worth of happiness. Again, in the same way, this happiness keeps on decreasing until it disappears altogether. Now, you may argue that while there's no happiness in any object of this world, but there is happiness in the people of the world. But even that is not true. Suppose a woman has sent her child to school for the very first time. She worries about him all day. When he finally returns home from school, she kisses him and embraces him lovingly. She picks him up and takes him in her lap. After a few minutes, however, she puts the child down and goes off to do her work. But why did she put her child down when she was experiencing such happiness from embracing her child? The reason is, you all know, that the mother did initially experience some happiness when she embraced her child, but that happiness did not stay for very long. It did not last for very long at all. After a while, she preferred to put the child down. The child had now become bothersome to her. Let me give you another example. Suppose there's a businessman who suffers a heart attack and dies. Hearing the news, his wife faints. His son is also extremely grieved, but to a lesser degree. Lesser than the son's grief is the grief of a friend. A neighbor hears the news and he's more or less unaffected. Now, there's another businessman who hears the news and he is extremely happy. Why? Because he owes the dead man, a large sum of money that no one knew about. Now let us suppose for a moment that the man did not die after all. The doctors had misdiagnosed him. So consequently, when he opens his eyes and starts speaking, his wife, who had just regained consciousness from the shock of his death, faints once again. But this time she faints due to extreme grief, or rather happiness, because he's alive. Excuse me. So this time she is extremely happy because he's alive. The son is also extremely happy, but to a lesser extent. He starts crying once again, but this time his tears are tears of joy. Lesser than the son's happiness is that of a friend. The neighbor again is more or less unaffected. He's still indifferent. He remains neutral. The second businessman, however, is now unhappy. Question all the people involved. there would be a great discrepancy in the answers given. Why? Because to the wife, the man is a source of happiness. Differently towards this man, depending on the fulfillment, the satisfaction or dissatisfaction of their selfish motive through him. The self-interest of the wife is the greatest. Greatest happiness of the son is of a lesser, lower degree. Of a friend, the neighbor again is neutral. He has no self-interest. However, the self-interest, the selfish motive of the second businessman is harmed. Hence, to him, the man is a source of unhappiness. Now, had there been happiness in this man, it would have been experienced by everyone at all times and in the same amount. So the point is, it must be clear from these examples that the happiness, the temporary, momentary happiness we do experience through certain people or objects of the world, is directly based on our attachment to these people, these certain people and objects of the world. And our attachments to people and objects are directly proportionate to the satisfaction, to the fulfillment of our selfish motives through them. So now the next question is, before you ask, I will just pose a question in your mind. A question may enter your mind, and that is, what is the happiness? Then what is the happiness we experience from time to time in the world? Is that not real happiness? No. Then what is it? Let us try to understand with the help of an example. Suppose there are two prisoners. One of them has been ordered to sit under a tree in the prison compound, while the other has been ordered to stand in the scorching heat of the sun. All of a sudden, the prison warden in charge comes along and starts beating the man who's standing in the sun. This first prisoner starts screaming with pain and begs the warden to stop the beating. The warden takes pity on the prisoner and stops. Now this man is relieved and he now feels happy, even standing in the terrible heat. Now let us suppose that now the second prisoner, who is sitting comfortably in the shade of a tree, is told to get up and join his friend. He does as he's told, but he is miserable. Why is he miserable when his friend is happy? Both are standing in the same heat. One is happy while the other is miserable. Why? The reason is, it is obvious, the first prisoner was put through two difficulties, standing in the sun and the beating. When he was relieved of one of his sorrows, that is the beating, he experienced this so-called happiness. On the other hand, the second prisoner was sent from a comfortable situation to a discomfortable one. Consequently, he experienced sorrow where his friend had experienced happiness. So it is clear from the story that what we call happiness is merely the absence of sorrow. It is in fact the lack of sorrow. You see, we are suffering from so many sorrows and miseries in the material world that when we are relieved of some or even one of these sufferings, we experience what we call happiness, the so-called happiness. A man, let me give you another example. A man is feeling miserable because he has been suspended. He has just been suspended from his job. And secondly, because his son is seriously ill. Suddenly he gets the news that he has been reinstated to his job. Now this man feels happy because at least one of his sorrows has disappeared. But it is not real happiness. And yet he mistakes it for real happiness, as we all do. This happiness is temporary, limited, and it is of transitory nature. It is fleeting, ever fleeting. It will disappear sooner or later. So you see, a person or an object which provides us happiness one moment may cease to do so the next, and may even become a source of misery to us the next moment. So this brings us to the second, another disease of the inner world, the world of our mind. The first disease, as we were discussing, is that of desire. That is the most damaging disease. And the second disease of the inner world is that we expect others to provide us happiness, to give us happiness. And when the scriptures tell us something different altogether, the Vedas tell us, a beautiful verse again, Navare patyuh kamay patih priyo bhavatyatmanastu kamay patih priyo bhavati. Navare jaya yai kamay jaya priya bhavatyatmanastu kamay jaya priya bhavati. Navare putranam kamay putraah priya bhavantyatmanastu kamay putraah priya bhavanti. Navare vittasya kamay vittam priyam bhavatyatmanastu kamay vittam priyam bhavati. Navare sarvasya kamay sarvam priyam bhavatyatmanastu kamay sarvam priyam bhavati. Atma vare drashtavya shrotavyo mantavyo nididhyasitavyo maitreyi. What does this mean? It's a beautiful verse. Such beautiful philosophy is contained within a single verse of the Vedas. It means that it is not for the sake of the husband that the wife loves the husband, but for the sake of the self. In other words, she loves him for her own sake, for her own happiness. It is not for the sake of the wife that the husband loves the wife, but for the sake of the self. It is not for the sake of the child that a mother or a father loves the child, but for the sake of the self. They love him for their own sake. And the same philosophy is expressed in the following verse by Sri Shankaracharya. Kate kanta kaste putraha sansaro yamativa vichitraha kasya tvam kaha kut ayatas tatvam chintaya manasi bhrataha bhaj govindam govindam bhaj mudhamate. In other words, whatever a worldly person does, he does for the sake of the self. We cannot do anything for anyone else until we become God realized. Because we ourselves have not attained that supreme divine bliss. Now you may think that, granted that this is what the Vedas say, but my practical experience tells me something different altogether. How can I believe that everyone in the world is selfish when I know for a fact that my best friend looked after her husband day and night during his illness? She did not eat properly. She did not even sleep properly. She was so concerned about him. If that is not true love, then what is? Another may say that my wife loves me so much. She's always fussing over me. How can you tell me that she does not love me? And yet the truth is that no one can love another in the world selflessly. Whatever anyone is doing or seems to be doing is for his or her own happiness. The Bhagavad states, Sarvesham api bhutanam nirpasvatmaiva vallabha itare patya vittadyas tadvallabha tayaivahi. 10:14:50. Veda Vyas expresses his amazement looking at the world. He says a man is getting married. Why? To be happy. A girl is accepting a man to be her husband. Why? For her happiness. Let me give you some examples. Ask any traditional married woman or any traditional Indian woman, would you prefer to die before or after your husband? She will undoubtedly answer before. Now you will say that here is true unselfish love. But no, not in the least. Had there been absolutely unselfish love, the woman would have preferred to die after her husband so that she may be able to look after him till his last moment. But she prefers to die before him so that she may enjoy financial security or emotional security until her last moment. So she does not have to suffer due to being separated from him. We love others for the sake of our own happiness. Even when we speak with another, it is for our own happiness. A father tells his son, "Son, get me a glass of water." The son goes immediately and gets water for his father. Oh, what a wonderful son I have, the father thinks. He's like Shravan Kumar. He's so obedient. I'm blessed with a wonderful son. 10 minutes later, however, the father tells him to do something else. He tells him to run an errand. This time, the son ignores his father. "Can't you hear me? I'm asking you to do something for me." "Oh, do it yourself. I'm busy." "Dad, oh my God. What a demon I have for a son." So in just a few minutes, Shravan Kumar has now turned into a demon. The love between a man and a woman is praised in beautiful, poetic verses in many texts, and we enjoy reading those poems, poetry. We hear of famous legends like Lala Majnu in the East and Romeo and Juliet, I guess, in the West. But even that is not real love. It cannot give us permanent happiness. It is momentary pleasure or temporary. It will come to an end sooner or later. And most importantly, it cannot put an end to the endless cycle of birth and death. It cannot free us from the sufferings of this material world. But generally speaking, what happens? In a momentary tide of emotion, a man and a woman promise to live and die together. But what happens shortly after the ceremony? It does not take very long for the selfishness to come out into the open. Let me give you another scenario. A woman decides to play a practical joke on her husband. She writes a love letter to a fictitious man, an imaginary man. And in this letter she says, I can no longer live without you. I am just waiting for a suitable opportunity to leave my husband so I can join you. The husband gets hold of this letter. He finds this letter and he is furious with rage. He's uncontrollable anger. Meanwhile, his wife knows that he has been reading this letter, so on purpose, she comes into the room and addresses him as she usually does. Her husband yells and screams at her, "How could you do this to me? You know, I always suspected something like this would happen. And now I have the proof in my hands." He looks at her with contempt and hatred and disgust. What has happened to the love he always professed for her? The love he always openly claimed for her. Suddenly it has disappeared. Not only has it disappeared, but it has been replaced by hatred. In the middle of his rage, his wife stops him. She reminds him, "Hey, it's April Fool's Day. This was just a joke." Embarrassed, the husband says, of course, dear. I never doubted your love for me. You know, I was just joking too." So again, the hatred has once again turned into love. Even the most worldly, the strongest worldly attachments come to an end as a result of such minor incidents. Had the husband truly loved his wife, he would have been happy for her. At least you found someone, you found happiness somewhere. I'm still looking for it. But that is not so. Worldly love is selfish, and we cannot blame anyone else for it either. We cannot say, "Hey, you're selfish, I'm not." We cannot do that because we're all in the same boat. We're all beggars. We are all seeking for that supreme divine bliss. We wish to attain divine love bliss, Divya Premanand, attaining which we will no longer need to attain anything else. So we cannot blame anyone. And the scriptures beautifully state, "Jehi te kachu निज स्वार्थ होई तेहि पर ममता कर सब कोई। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। सुर नर मुनि सब कैया हरीति स्वार्थ लागी करहि सब प्रीति। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। राम सिया राम जय जय राम। Ramayan states that the basis of all worldly love is selfishness. I don't want to take any more time. To conclude, having discovered that the world is devoid of happiness, it is not a source of happiness, we must stop expecting happiness from it And the moment, once we do that, once we accomplish that, with the help of spiritual knowledge, it will not be difficult for us to detach our mind from the world and surrender it to where it should be surrendered. And that is Hari and Guru. So with these words, I will pause here. Until next time. Bole Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki, Srimad Sadguru Sarkar ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Thank you very much.